this year, the first year for the college football playoffs, will have 12 teams, and this is going to be interesting. And come late December there, and the first round of the playoffs is like December 20th. Then you got your quarterfinals, and then you got your this is almost like a mini uh, like NC2A basketball tournament, but with not as many teams. This is going to be interesting because teams that didn't make it last year, how long have we been arguing about? Okay, they should have made it. They should have made it. They picked the wrong four teams. Or what about this team that went 12-0 and they didn't even make it because of their strength of schedule or lack of or whatever. This is going to be great here to end college football. So we probably have a lot of college football dates. I mean, updates as we, just get through the NFL season.
We should, yeah. I mean, you had teams like the UCF team that was real good with Isaiah McKenzie at quarterback years ago that went undefeated. They wanted a shot at the Natty. You have schools like Cincinnati, like Liberty, that are really, really good within their conference, but never got a crack at the playoffs. So this expanded 12-team playoff is going to allow for these smaller schools that have the talent, they have the players that they can compete. They'll finally get their chance to go against the Georgias and the Alabamas and the blue chip teams to, really just prove their mettle that they belong. And it may not happen this year, but it's going to be really, really, really cool when one of these smaller teams end up taking it
I
all
know it.
over an SEC or a
I
Big
mean, it,
Ten or any other conference.
yeah, I mean, even with the basketball format, it doesn't happen. I mean, there's always the Cinderellas that upset, but you don't have enough teams, and I'm sure the 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 smaller schools are going to be facing these big schools as far as the seedings, and that'll be the end of it there. But you never know; somebody might sneak through. So don't take your eyes off college football this year because it's going to be interesting and exciting. Okay, let's talk Texans football here. Let's talk about this team is getting ready to go on the road to face the Indianapolis Colts. Man, the Colts always, 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 always play the Texans tough, Jacob. And no matter who's on the field, um, this is going to be interesting here. And I know everyone's looking forward to the Bears week 2, the home opener. And and before the home opener, how about the stadium, which was damaged by Hurricane Beryl? There are a couple of panels in that stadium that won't be repaired until probably the end of the month. So not that it's going to make a difference. I mean, I don't think the weather's going to get crazy over the next couple of weeks, but you just never know. We're still in hurricane season, right?
It's just nuts that we took damage during Hurricane Beryl. When the forecasts and whatnot were rolling through, Hurricane Beryl wasn't much, right? Like even when you watch the news, like naturally they said like, be careful. But it wasn't supposed to be this giant storm, and then it rips those panels off of NRG. And there's one that's going to be taken care of like right before the Colts game, and another one like 4 weeks later. And it's wild that like downtown got tore up so bad by the high winds from that hurricane. Like it's wild to me that happened.
Yeah, it is. So I mean, look, hey, first game is on the road, so nothing. I'm sure they're gonna do whatever they can to get this thing. It's just a moot point. I mean, they played during the preseasons. No, it wasn't like there was, a torrential rainstorm or anything. And if any luck, if it does happen, it's going to be on the visiting team side. So we let them get drenched with rain or whatever, or like the Cowboys stadium with the sun. You know how the sun can just come in there if you're on the wrong end of the field. You are impacted. But hey, um, getting ready for the Indianapolis Colts, and man, this is going to be tough. This is going to be a test because if the Texans are going to win the division, like me and you and almost everyone else has predicted, it's going to start with that game Sunday versus the Colts.
Correct. And I think, it's going to come down to the defensive line for Houston. I think with the Colts game, Will Anderson's been a little banged up all preseason. He had that ankle injury early on. He's been out since the Hall of Fame game. So we have Will Anderson as a semi-question mark for this game, despite him trending in the right direction for the last 3 weeks. So it's going to come down to the fact that Danico Autry suspended. Will Anderson is questionable. So you're going to need a big game out of Danielle Hunter. And you're going to need players like Tim Settle and Mario Edwards to really, really make an impact. I assume that we'll have Derek Barnett starting on the other side in place of Will Anderson if he's not ready to go at 100%. So if our defensive line can contain Anthony Richardson and it can hold Jonathan Taylor to a minimum, I think that's the key to success. It's all going to come down to whether or not the defensive line can gel correctly with Anthony Richardson being as dynamic as he is.
And I got a question there as far as AJ. Do we have a soundbite on from D'Amico Ryan's on expectations this week?
Not necessarily for this week, but just expectations for the season. Because there's only articles about it. I couldn't find any
Okay,
audio.
let's okay let's let's get D'Amico Ryan's thought on exactly what the season. You got that ready, AJ?
I still tell our guys our expectations is just to get better every day. Like I tell, like we can't get everybody know when we suit up like you guys have. Like everybody wants to go win it all, right? That's always the goal. That's why we do what we do, right? We're trying to go get that Lombardi, but we don't get there overnight. So enjoy the process of just getting better every day. And when we look up in February and we're there playing for that Lombardi, that's what's gonna make it really special.
That's good stuff. I like that, Jacob, and thanks, AJ. Because yeah, I mean, it's D'Amico's been there, being with the 49ers. He knows that road to get there. But I just think, what he said, Jacob was spot on, and he's the right man to really just take this young team where they need to go.
I agree, spot on. And every time I hear D'Amico Ryan speak, makes me feel like running through a wall. I get hyped up every time I hear him talk to the team. It makes me want to put on pads and go run through somebody. I love
Don't
it.
do it, Jacob. Don't do it, man. It looks easy, but it's not, man. You look. I mean, I look. You look like you in shape and stuff. I mean, probably you go last longer. You and AJ could probably last a couple of downs, but I'm just
Hey,
not getting out there at all. I can't do it.
yeah. I mean, I'm getting old now. I'm on the downward spiral. I'm a wily veteran. They would have cut me even if I was talented at this age. So I mean, that's just kind of the name of the game.
And see, AJ's on the practice squad. He just don't tell anybody. Yeah,
That's exactly
yeah.
right.
He's cut up for a young dude. He's ready to go. AJ, you ready? Would you be ready if they called you?
Maybe. I mean, I played football when I was younger, but I became a hooper like close to high school. But I mean, hey, I put on some muscle and stuff.
I
So
would. That's
hey.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Hey, well, speaking of muscle here, we getting ready to talk NFC South when we come back. And we're going to bring Dustin Pfeiffer. You guys know he's my Sports Kings buddy. You can catch us every week on Podbean, streaminglive.com. So we always going to be giving you our predictions on the game. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're getting into the NFC South. We only got two more divisions to look at before we make the overall projections. So stay with us here. You're listening to the Mean Gene Show with Jacob Meadows on ESPN 97.5 Houston.
Now back to Mean Gene, broadcasting live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios.
All right. We are back once again, folks. Bottom of the first hour here, the Mean Gene Show on a Sunday. It's September. It is football. I mean, the leaves are not falling quite yet, and the temperatures haven't dropped. But football has. College football, NC2A football, LSU, USC on ABC TV right now. If you USC is leading that game 7-0, by the way. But the big boys, the ones that we talk about, the reason why we are here, they get underway Thursday night, and we are going to talk about the NFC South. Jacob, we still got you, right?
Yes, sir. I am still here.
But this next guy, y'all may know something about him. We've only worked together for almost, 10, 12 years now. It's been a wonderful ride. This guy, just an expert when it comes to football. His knowledge is way better than Mean Gene's. But he's representing the Carolina Panthers, so you can never say nothing wrong or bad about them because he will correct you. But anyway, we're talking about my man Dustin Pfeiffer from Bally Sports Southeast. Dustin, what's up?
Mean Gene, what's going on, man? Glad to be on. I think I need to correct you there, though. I don't like to correct other people. I just like to correct you.
Yeah, I know. You keep me on my toes, Dustin. You always have.
I do.
Even from the days when I was wandering and lost at Bank of America Stadium there, covering the Dolphins and the Panthers, man, Jacob, that's how I met this guy, and he's been helping me ever since.
Nice. Makes sense. Yeah.
Well, guys,
hey, what's up, Dustin?
What's going on, Jacob, man? Good to talk to you.
Let's
Good
get
to talk to
into
you, man.
We're gonna start NFC South, and Dustin, for this segment, we're gonna go in hot with the Panthers, even though, just to recap, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won that division for the last 3 years. Now we know there was a guy by the name of Tom Brady that was there for the most part, but what we didn't see was this Baker Mayfield guy leading the Buccaneers to a 9-8 season. They get into a wild card game. They beat the Eagles. They caught the Eagles on a bad night or a bad week or a bad year, but nevertheless, they did get in and win a game. But it's the Panthers that everyone kind of wants to know what's going to be different about the Panthers this year, Dustin, because last year was rough for Bryce Young, the former Heisman Trophy winner. What's the outlook for the Panthers this year?
Well, yeah, I don't think it can get any worse for the Panthers, if I'm being honest. I mean, just a train wreck of a year last year. You get the number one pick, you get Bryce Young, but the coaching staff, Frank Wright, who they brought in, it just didn't work out. Their scheme didn't work out. They had too many coaches that wanted to do different things, and it just was a train wreck, and the roster wasn't good as itself. So they've made a complete change. They've gotten rid of the GM. We've got Dan Morgan as the GM now, Dave Canales as the head coach, who came from Tampa Bay and worked with Baker Mayfield when he had that rejuvenation last year. So they're really trying to change some things around. They bulked up their offensive line, which was a huge problem, spent $100 million on their starting guards, went out and got some receivers, Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh. And they got Jonathan Brooks in the draft from Texas. So they're doing everything they can to surround Bryce with some weapons to give him some help. Because, listen, when you pick him as the number one pick, you expect this guy to come in and produce. But when you put him in a terrible situation like you did with this roster and that coaching staff last year, I don't think anybody could have came in and succeeded with what they had. So they're really trying to give him more weapons, more protection, so he can be a much better quarterback in year two. And I think we did see he only played one drive in the preseason, but it was a very impressive drive. So I'm hoping to see some big improvement from Bryce Young and the Panthers this year.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, I'm right there with Dustin. They expected the world out of Bryce Young last year, and then they traded away all of his offensive talent, and they gave him just a skeleton of a scheme. And then on top of it, the coaches didn't know what they were doing. So they did. They went out and they got Xavier Leggett and Johnson from the Steelers to bolster their wide receiving core. They beefed up their offensive line. And now I think we'll actually be able to get a taste of what the Bryce Young-led Panthers can actually do now that they have NFL-caliber talent on the team.
You know what?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just to add on to that real quick, Gene. I mean, listen, we're not sitting here saying they're going to make up the playoffs this year and go from 2 wins to 10 wins. But I think you will see that improvement. Even if it's just 6 or 7 wins, you're talking about tripling their win total from a year ago. So you just want to see improvement in this rebuild. You want to see Bryce Young be able to produce now that they finally have put some competent people around him. So they're just looking to take that next step in the rebuild. It's not fully finished, but I think you'll see some of those steps taken this year.
And that's what I want to, talk to you about, because if you look at 2021, they go 5-12. You look at 2022, 7-10. Then last year, 2-15. So, how can that's like a seesaw type of a win-loss record, but that 7-10 was good enough for second place. How can they just make it better? Do you see a possible chance where they can get 7 wins out of this team?
Yeah, I think if they stay healthy, that they have a chance to get 7 wins, and obviously we talk about that with a bunch of teams. But the thing about this team is, again, they're just fresh in this rebuild. I think Dan Morgan, the GM, is doing a good job of finally getting some guys in here, like I said, that can help. But I don't think they have a lot of depth. Their frontline starters are pretty good, and they brought in some talent. But if they have any type of injuries across the offensive line, defensive line, then their depth is not as good as some of these other playoff teams in the past, and that they could struggle. But if they stay fairly healthy, I think they could push for 7 wins. And again, let's not forget, we're not asking them to win the division, but they also are playing in probably the weakest division in football.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that because, like, you look at last year's records. I mean, Tampa Bay wins that division with a 9-8 record. The Saints, how they got to be 9-8, I can't even remember. Atlanta now. This is a different Atlanta team. They were 7-10 this year. They get rid of their quarterback. They almost like hit the reset button without, really pushing it all the way. They bring in Kirk Cousins. Then they bring in reinforcement just in case, something flares up with him and Michael Penix Jr. But, I just think Kirk Cousins is walking into one hell of a situation with the untapped Kyle Pitts and Drake London. And we all know Kirk Cousins like to throw it up, Jacob.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just Drake London. I mean, you have Kyle Pitts, the star tight end, and Captain Kirk has made a career out of peppering his tight ends with targets. And then you've got Bijan out of the backfield, who can also catch passes. And Dalvin Cook was really good at being a dual-threat running back while paired with Kirk Cousins. So it's a match made in heaven for Kirk.
Yeah, and I think you just said it right there, Jacob. I think one of the main reasons Arthur Smith got fired is because they drafted Bijan Robinson, number 7 overall, and he wouldn't give him the ball last year. Like, this guy is set up to be a star running back in this league, catching and running the ball, and I think you're going to see him be featured. Obviously, you mentioned Drake London. Kyle Pitts, man, he has all the talent in the world to be that star tight end, but I'm still hearing that he's struggling in camp. So it's going to be interesting to see how it is. And then the main question, you just mentioned Kirk Cousins coming off that Achilles injury at that age. Kind of the same question with Aaron Rodgers. Can these guys come back after an injury like that, older in age, and be able to produce? And maybe it's one of the reasons they did take Michael Penix, just in case, Kirk Cousins gets another injury again.
Yeah, the one team in that division, guys, that I'm struggling with, and we're going to make our predictions in the next segment there, but the Saints, I just don't know, because you get when you look at this division now, you got to think Carr is the most experienced quarterback. I mean, you can challenge me on that with Kirk Cousins, but Carr, has been a pretty good quarterback over the greatest part of his career. But the Saints, for some reason, I'm just not knowing, they bring in Olave. They still have Kamara. It's just some of the old guys, not Olave, but Kamara. I don't know what. I just think he's going to take a few steps backwards this year. I just can't put my hand on the Saints.
Yeah, I'm going to go out here and make a prediction, and maybe this is rich coming from, a guy who covers the Panthers and may have been in last place, but I think the Saints finish in last place in this division, Gene. This is coming from a guy who I said the Raiders did Derek Carr wrong. He was a very good quarterback, but it just has not clicked in New Orleans. He's struggled. I have said it multiple times that I think Dennis Allen is probably a bottom 5 coach in the NFL, and I don't see how he keeps his job after this year. And then you mentioned it. Their skill guys are older. Kamara, Michael Thomas, again, is suspended for week 1. And their best defensive players are Cam Jordan and Tyrann Mathieu, who are also up there in age. I just don't like their roster. I think they're going to finish in last place, and I will go out there and say I'm not as close to this team as I am the Panthers, but I've heard a lot of rumblings that if Derek Carr struggles early, that Spencer Rattler, the rookie from South Carolina, has impressed big time in camp, and they kind of think that he could be the future, and that could be sooner rather than later.
I agree with that. Jacob, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Dustin basically read off everything on my notepad. I mean, I'm not running off the notepad, but I think Dennis Allen is one of the worst coaches in the NFL. And I agree. I think the Saints finish in the stellar. I don't see any reason for them to not be in last place in the weakest, what could be the weakest division in professional football, just because they have an aging roster, they have no cap room. And I mean, Rashid Shaheed's young. He's a wide receiver, just like Chris Olave, and he provides they have some talent. They have some explosiveness and speed, but they don't have a full team. It's a team game at the end of the day, and the Derek Carr experiment hasn't worked. The run game has taken a step back every year for the last 2 or 3 years. I don't see they don't have the money to improve. So I don't see any room for improvement. They're going to take a step back again this year and probably hit the reset button, in my opinion.
And speaking of that, Gene, week 1 is Saints Panthers. So that's two teams who are probably saying they're both thinking we need to win this game because they're probably thinking the other team is who they're battling for at the bottom of that division.
Yeah, you're right. And that's why, later on in the show, we're going to get into some of the most intriguing matchups for week 1. Because they're going to be critical. Definitely Texans, Colts, but that is, when you start off with divisional games, man, the writing is already on the wall. So you don't want to be 0-1 in your division when you're looking at 5 more games there. But we should see, guys. But hey, look here, Dustin, as always, man. Thank you for coming on. Me and you will hook up this week on the Sports King Show and make our predictions, which I'm usually more right and Dustin is more wrong.
I'm going to let that one go, Gene, until we get on the show.
All right, folks. Hey, Dustin Pfeiffer joining us, Bally Sports Southeast. Me and Jacob Meadows, we will be back with our final thoughts on the NFC South and what our orders. So stick around. It's the Mean Gene Show right here on ESPN 97.5.
This is the Mean Gene Show
on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here's Mean Gene.
All right, we want to thank Dustin Pfeiffer for joining us in that last segment as we continue our NFC South predictions, and that would mean myself and Jacob Meadows, who also is joining us at home under the weather. Jacob, the studio is just, we miss you here, man. AJ said he didn't know how he was gonna sit through 2 hours looking at my face today, but we're getting through it.
I tuned into the live lobby just to see the sad empty chair. It sucks that I have to miss next weekend too because I'm on vacation for my birthday. I'll be calling in again, but I'll be back. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Y'all can see my beautiful face in the studio.
Happy early birthday, Jacob.
Yeah, happy.
I appreciate it, my
happy
man.
Early birthday, Jacob. What are you gonna be, like 16?
It sure feels like it, man.
Yeah.
I'm turning ripe in 30. I'm halfway expired. I'll be turning 30 years old.
Between you and AJ and the youthness of this show, I tell you, it balances out though. I have to I have to really hold back on my old stories because I don't want to put you guys to sleep. But it's all good. But anyway, hey, Dustin Pfeiffer, man. Dustin always brings it. And hey, don't forget, listen to Sports Kings podcast on iHeart or Podbean, wherever you get podcasts, right? So we do this weekly countdown show. We've done it for like 10 years straight. And we just chime in. We go at every matchup that's scheduled. So it's always good. So can't wait to get into that with Dustin on Wednesday. I think we're going to do it. We have to do it before the season kickoff. But Jacob, I want to kind of finish out here because we're going to give our thoughts on. I got my prediction order for the AFC South, but here's a team, the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are my question mark there because they got off to that surprising 3-1 start last year, right? They were in first place for leading up to week 5, the bye. And then, however, after that bye, they went south. They lost 6 of the next 7 games. And then they found a way to rebound, and they won 5 of their last 6 games, which was good enough to win the tiebreaker against the Saints, which is the reason why they clinched the division. But I don't know. I think the Buccaneers are surrounded with talent, but it always somehow seems to fall on Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield has historically put out a great season, but hasn't really followed it up with a better next season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. The Buccaneers are the biggest question mark for me as well, just because they didn't do a lot in the offseason. They were real quiet with their acquisition, and it feels like they brought more or less the same team back from last season, which, they made the playoffs, they won the division, but not by much. So I'm not sure if they actually took a step forward going into the season, or if they kind of just sat put and hoped that nobody else in the division improved to the point that they were already at. Because they have all of the same weapons on offense. You have Rachaad White with the new season and the scheme and whatnot. He was a good running back. But you have Mike Evans, who's getting older. He's still, he's a top 8 wide receiver easily. First ballot Hall of Fame. Dude's amazing. But he is older. You have Chris Godwin, same story, getting older. He's been oft injured over the last couple of years. And then you have a mishmash of other people at wide receiver behind them, too, that are kind of plug and play, that are good but not great. And it doesn't feel like this is going to be a different team. So I don't think that they have a better season this year. I think they might take a step back with their division getting more competitive, as well as the teams around them in their conference. I don't know if the Buccaneers did enough to compete more, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense because I'm just struggling with it. And I know there were times last year when you wondered why Baker Mayfield could not hit, Evans. Evans was open, and you just see these crazy games where he's not even targeted in the first half. And then, you see this late rally where he goes and hit Evans about 10 times in a row. So I don't know. I mean, I don't get it. And I know Todd Bowles have a lot of respect for that guy, and but I just don't see this Buccaneers team being lucky enough to win the division. But the team that I do see, and the team that made wholesale changes this year in the offseason, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. They fired, Arthur Smith. They bring in, another coach, Raheem Morris, and man, you just see some of that. They bring in Kirk Cousins. They bring in some defensive players here. Just I mean, that team is not the same Atlanta Falcons team that we saw last year.
No, not at all. Because they won the Justin Simmons sweepstakes, right? They got Justin Simmons and then followed it up with the Matt Judon trade, correct, on defense?
Yeah.
They loaded up on talent. Yeah, I think I do have to agree with you there. I think Atlanta wins that division. I mean, if they don't, it's solely going to be because their quarterback position falls apart because they've done everything else correctly. They loaded up on veterans. They have plenty of young players. They have speed. They have power. They have everything you need to compete. I think, in my opinion, before the season starts, Atlanta should be number one in that division.
In the 7-10 season last year, look, they get rid of Desmond Ritter, who is, I don't even know if he's still in football. I know that he was waived by the Falcons, and then I can't remember. I think he went to the Cardinals. He went somewhere.
Got picked up by the Cardinals and then got waived by the Cardinals.
And the Cardinals
he
waived
no
him.
team right now.
I mean, but that was a high draft pick. So, but they still finished 7-10. So this team is serious because look, that's only 2 games behind the Buccaneers who won the division. So you don't think this team is reloaded on defense and offense? They bring in Raheem Morris, who used to coach down in Tampa, by the way. So he's definitely familiar with the division. He goes and hangs out with our coach there with the Rams, Sean McVay. And I'm just really happy to see Raheem Morris get another job. But I think this team is going to be like, everyone like to compare it, to the Texans. I mean, but I'm looking at this Atlanta Falcons team to shock, not only win the division, but, man, might make a deep playoff run because they just might run away with the NFC South, which would give them the cushion to have enough wins and host maybe 1 or 2 playoff games.
See, there's only one negative comparison that I can compare this Atlanta Falcons team to, and it's not a 1-to-1. They remind me a little bit of the dream team that was put together in Philadelphia back in the day. I mean, naturally, Captain Kirk's not Michael Vick, but it reminds me a lot of the dream team they put together in Philadelphia that fell short. And I'm just curious if that's going to be what ends up, happening to the Atlanta Falcons. They put this team together. They have all these stars from around the league that take these team-friendly contracts to play together to win a ring. You have the Justin Simmons and the Matt Judon and the Captain Kirk and, some of these big-name vets all coming together. And I wonder if it'll be a one-and-done in the playoffs against better teams. I do think it's going to be enough. They'll front-load. They'll win that division by 2 or 3 games. But I'm wondering.
Well, I mean, they could be one and done in the playoffs, but I definitely think they're going to win the division. I just think so. And and listening to Dustin, I'm on the fence between. I don't know. Well, New Orleans might be bad. I don't know. I just give a lot of respect to quarterbacks who are at least experienced. So when you look at this team here, Cousins and Carr are the most experienced quarterbacks in this division, and Baker Mayfield would be the next one. But these guys, longevity there with Kirk Cousins up there in Minnesota. I know he was originally with Washington, but a lot of years spent in Minnesota, a lot of years for Carr in with the Raiders. I don't know. I like to see Bryce Young, have a better year. Like Dustin said, you can't do any worse than the 2-15 record.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think Carolina is easily going to get the best turnaround team this year award and whatnot. Because Bryce Young really didn't have anybody to throw to last year. When DJ Chark is your best receiver years after his best years at Jacksonville,
right.
It doesn't spell a lot for you. Adam Thielen's 33, and he was out there He had an insane year last year because that was the only guy that Bryce Young had to throw to. I think doing nothing but adding offensive linemen and wide receivers to the mix would have catapulted Carolina into that next echelon. Like they have successfully started the rebuild, and things can only go up from here.
Well, here's my division prediction for the NFC South. I have the Falcons winning that division. I have the Buccaneers second. I'm going to give Baker Mayfield and that team. They didn't really have to acquire anybody. They already have a talented team. And let's just see what Baker Mayfield does. And part two is what we're going to call this for Baker Mayfield. Then I have the Saints third place. I have the Panthers, and this is why we did this with Dustin off the air. I got the Panthers finishing last.
Nice,
place.
not too bad. We're almost in full agreement. I just think the Saints round out the cellar. I have to agree with Dustin on that one. I think it's going to be the Falcons, the Bucks, then the Panthers, then the Saints, and the Saints will finally be able to start their rebuild after this season. If they have a bad year, they'll probably can Dennis Allen, and then they'll be able to draft a quarterback early or find one in free agency and start over.
The Saints could be our worst first team. You do know where the Super Bowl is at next year, right? You do know. You
Yes.
know it's in New Orleans, right? Now you don't
Absolutely.
think
And
you don't think the Saints
that
are
would
going to
be nuts.
have some incentive to play better? You know, we saw this 2 years in a row. We saw the host Super Bowl town team made the Super Bowl. We saw it with the Rams. Then we saw it with the Buccaneers. You know,
And then when the Rams did it, wasn't that the first time? Like it's
First
happened
time.
twice
Yeah, it happened-
recently,
it
but
happened
it's
back to
never
back
happened
almost.
before.
So who knows? We'll see. But hey, this is going to round up our first hour here. We are pretty much done with this first hour. When we come back, we got a whole lot more stuff to talk about in the second hour. So, folks, I hope you stick around here. You're listening to the Mean Gene Show on a Sunday night, ESPN 97.5 H-Town. All right. Welcome back. Hour number 2, Mean Gene Show, Sunday night, ESPN 97.5 Houston. If you're driving around listening to us, hopefully you're enjoying the show. We getting you ready for real football. No more meaningless football. And I am joined uh, by my co-host, and that is Jacob Meadows. Jacob, you still with us?
Yes, sir. You know I am. What is up, Mean Gene?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. That first hour went by pretty fast. You know, this USC and LSU game is still on. It's pretty good. I believe that's the second quarter. They are close to getting to halftime. USC leading LSU 10-7. So USC, I think, is the 23rd ranked team in the country versus the 13th ranked team. So this is good stuff here. These two teams don't meet often, but looks like a great game now. I think it's in Las Vegas, a place that we are
Yeah,
very
it
familiar
is.
with.
Yeah, it's the Vegas Kickoff Classic.
That's what it's like. Yeah, I can recognize that. So anyway, how about that? In case you missed any part of the first hour, you can always go back and get it. It's the Mean Gene Show audio boom. You can just download it, listen to it, and dissect it, do anything you want to do with it, right? And we talked a little bit about the NFC South. This hour, we are going to discuss the NFC North. Now, it's going to get interesting this hour because, you know, Dustin represented the Panthers. So my nephew, Tony, is going to come on and do the same for the Bears. Now, just not any family nephew, okay? He knows his sports and he knows it well. As a matter of fact, he graduated from broadcasting school. You know, we keep it in the family, AJ. You know, so anyway,
Nice.
I
can't wait to talk to him. This
He's
will be my
gonna blow
first
up.
time getting to talk to him.
Yeah, he knows his stuff. He's gonna make the case why the Chicago Bears are more than likely going to not only win the division, but go to the bowl. So
Yeah, and it's going to be nice to have him on talking about the Bears because the Bears Week 1 matchup's one of my games of the week. It's one of the ones that I'm queuing in on that I'm making sure I'm going to get to watch. So
and that Week 2 matchup is going to be even better. So,
yeah, so
we all know
both their first two matchups are against the AFC South. They have
Yes.
the Titans in Week 1 and Houston in Week 2, and I think the Titans are going to be sneaky good. I love their offseason. I think the Titans are going to surprise a lot of people, and they're going to be a whole hell of a lot better than what most people think.
We will see. Yeah, I mean, you picked up some new resources, so let's see. They cut Malik Willis, so we talked about that last week. But anyway, so we're going to talk about it. Week 1 of the NFL season, a few days away, and of course, we got a lot of interesting games for Week 1. As a matter of fact, we're going to get into some of the most intriguing matchups going into Week 1 because this is really where it's going to be fun here. And then next segment here, we should be giving you more updates on fantasy football. Fantasy football is going to be a regular part of this show, I can guarantee you. Especially, I'm in 3 leagues, by the way, Jacob. AJ, did you finally have your draft?
Yes, sir. I had 2. I'm in 2 leagues now.
You're in 2 leagues.
One of my teams is super stacked. Like it's crazy.
Okay. Well, I tell you what. We're going to talk about it next segment.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. Jacob, how many teams do you have?
I'm on 3. It's miserable. It's too much to keep up with.
It is, but it's fun,
I have
though.
3, 2 paying leagues and a free league.
So you're sitting there like, a typical Sunday is you got your TVs going, more than one, right, plural, and then you have your laptop and maybe a notepad or iPad or something and your cell phone because you have to keep up with everything. And then it's funny because if one of your teams you're rooting for one player and the other, you're rooting against, and it's just crazy, man. But I'm looking forward to it, Jacob. And we're in the Sports Kings League, which is been running for a couple of years now, so this is going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. But what I really wanted to talk about here in this segment, Jacob, was some of the intriguing matchups here. Now, we know, the rematch between the two teams that played for the AFC Championship, that is going to be a good one. That sets the tone early between a team that's trying to do what no other team has ever done, and that's win 3 Super Bowls. The Chiefs are going to host the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday night. Jacob, it doesn't get any better than that.
Isn't that a sweet treat on Week 1? It's the best matchup in all of football, fans. Maybe the Chiefs and Bills, depending on who's starting and who's injured. And we get it. It's the very first game of the regular season. It feels so good. Like the NFL, what a nugget, right? Just a nice little nugget that they gave us as fans. that we get to watch the Chiefs go up against the Ravens in Arrowhead. And it's neither team took a step back. They both
No,
technically improved over the offseason somehow.
no.
So, like, it's going to be a great game, no matter what
Man,
happens.
and-
If it's a defensive slugfest, great game. If it's an offensive powerhouse, great game.
Well,
it's
it might-
just a treat.
It might be a defensive struggle. Right now, the point spread is 3 points for the Chiefs, which is not a lot, for a home opener and all the hype going into the season. I mean, they are the overwhelmingly favorite to win. I mean, to get back to the Super Bowl, or no, favorite to win it too. So, but a 3-point favorite here against, and the over under is 46.5. So this is pretty interesting. But this is to set the tone for the AFC. I mean, this is really, somebody's going to lose. Someone's going to be one game behind the rest of the AFC. And then on Friday night, first ever, I think, NFL Friday night game. I've been around for a while. I can't ever. Oh, the Black Friday. Well, yeah, that one. That's right. Okay. I forget
Yeah,
about
but Black Friday is also a
But
little
to open
different.
up
It's
the
almost,
season,
it's a semi-national holiday.
That's true. I mean, yeah, that was an interesting game. I think the Packers played that, if I'm not mistaken.
It was the Dolphins and the Jets, and that's when
Okay,
the Jets got blown
That's
out.
right.
yeah.
That's right. Because we know what happened to the Jets. But this Friday, this early season opener Friday, so you open up on Thursday night, and then you get a Friday night game, and the matchup here is no fluke. You got the Green Bay Packers, who finished the season hot, close to getting to the Super Bowl, right, or getting to the where they needed to be, and then you have the Eagles, who, man, they went the opposite direction to end the season, and this is a good NFC opener, Jacob.
This could be a showcase for the NFC Championship game,
It really
depending on how the season shakes out. Both of them. The first two, how crazy is that? The first two games played of the regular season could be your AFC and NFC Championship games at the end of the year as well.
And I think they know what they're doing when they do this, and I think
It's poetic, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is by design. Anything the NFL does, trust me, they know what they're doing. These matchups, because teams are scheduled to play each other as far as conferences years in advance, but the NFL gets to choose some of these other games, and they know exactly what they're doing when they schedule these games. So, are we going to see? Is Green Bay going to pick up from where they left off, and are we going to see the Eagles, get it together with Saquon Barkley? It's going to be a different look for the Eagles, and Jordan Love, who comes off this what was it, $212 million, or what was it, something like that? I can't remember.
Something to that effect.
It was 200 plus, but so this is going to be good. So when we talk about intriguing games to start the season, I think we have to have those two. We haven't even gotten to Sunday yet.
What's your favorite? What's your big Sunday matchup? Because we have the sick Thursday, Friday. What's your favorite Sunday matchup out of the opening week slate?
You know what? My favorite. Could I have more than one? I want to have more than one and they both are involving Texas teams. Okay, I think that the Texans Colts is just going to be serious. That it kind of ranks up there with the Packers and the Packers and the Eagles, because you getting Anthony Richardson is coming back. The Colts at home, they read the papers or the press or what have you. They know all the hype is on the Texans right now. They are going to do everything possibly to ruin the Texans' season opener, and everyone knows that. And then you got the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. So this is interesting here. Cleveland at home, they're 2.5-point favorite. And by the way, the Texans are a 2.5 favorite to win over the Colts. But I think my other game, Jacob, is the Cowboys and the Browns, a team that just got destroyed by the Packers to end their season. And then you get the Browns, who everyone is trying to see what type of a quarterback Deshaun Watson is going to be. So this is interesting. Those are intriguing games. So you got AJ. What AJ smiling over there? So
You said the talking about the Cowboys got destroyed, but you didn't say how the Browns got destroyed. See, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Wow.
wait a minute.
Hashtag
Okay.
dog pound.
Let me get there first. Okay, so the Texans destroyed the Browns. So, and this is why I'm keeping it in Texas. So, Jacob and AJ, those are my intriguing games for Sunday. The Texans game. Thank goodness I get to watch both. Uh, the Texans get the early game, and then the Cowboys get the Cowboys and Browns get the late game. Both Texas teams are on the road, so those are my intriguing games for Sunday.
Nice. I like those. Just as honorable mention for two other games for the Sunday slate. The Broncos and the Seahawks ought to be good because we'll get a look at that Seahawk offense and defense now that it's finally healthy again. We'll get to see Geno, see if he one more year in that scheme, if that offense will click a little better, see if DK can get a couple more passes, see what Jackson Smith and Jigba does in the offense. And then we get to see Bo Nix start with the cast around him, and I think Sean Payton's going to pull off some magic with that Broncos team, unfortunately. I'm not a big Sean Payton fan, but I do think the Broncos are going to be good this year. And then the Rams-Lions. The Rams-Lions is another game that could be showcasing, the back end of the NFC conference. This is it. It could be a big game with large playoff ramifications come the end of the season.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. When we come back, a couple of more games that I want to bring to attention, like ones that you shouldn't watch at all. Like turn off your TV, don't even pay attention. So, hey, we just moving right along here in this second hour of the Mean Gene Show right here on 97.5 ESPN.
You're listening to The Mean Gene Show
on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
for the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here's Mean Gene.
All right, we are back here as we are getting ready for the NFL season, which is going to kick off in less than 5 days here. Big Thursday night matchup. The defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs will host the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I hate the Ravens, so I can say that, especially, being a Steelers fan. So I'm sorry. I don't think there's any Ravens fans on this side of the continent anyway. But, Jacob, we were talking about some of the most intriguing games to watch this week one. How about some
Yes,
games
sir.
that people should just not watch at all? I mean, look, you would probably rather watch paint dry than watch the Vikings and the Giants because,
Yeah, it's going to be a bad game, I think.
yeah, it's going to be an ugly game. 41 and a half total points is already what they're projecting. I think it's going to be under 20. I just really do. Uh, I mean, what we saw with Daniel Jones in the preseason, maybe he might try to wipe that preseason away. But this matchup, and is it Sam Darnold that got the start for the Vikings? I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that's going to be good TV to watch.
It's going to be rough. I bet it like 24-10. I bet Minnesota could put 24 points up between Aaron Jones and any assortment of their receivers and Sam Darnold. And the Giants are not going to score a lot of points. They'll be lucky to see 10. They're so bad.
Yeah, I mean that is the one game that you could probably watch a rerun of Lassie or I Love Lucy or something. AJ like I have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
I tell you what, when the Patriots Bengals comes on, I'm probably going to watch some reruns of Love Boat. That's another game that's just not going to be any good.
Which one was that?
Patriots and Bengals.
Well, I think the Bengals are going to be interesting because it's going to be the return of Mr.
Joe Burrow.
And,
against a Patriots team with nothing going for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an ugly game. If you're a Bengals fan, you're going to enjoy the hell out of this game.
That's true. If you're a
Patriots
that is.
fan,
If you're a Bengals fan, it's going to feel. It'll be a confidence game.
Look,
you'll be able to see them light it up a little bit.
Look, of all the games, and just saying that, I didn't even. The point spread is 9, and it's going to be worse than that. I didn't even look at that. I just know this is going to be an ugly game here. And Jacoby,
I bet that over hits though. The line's at 40.5 points. I bet that game goes over 40.5.
It could be 41 to. This will be an ugly game. But nevertheless, I mean, just a couple of ugly matchups here. And, I mean, hey, if you're a fan of these teams, we'll pray for you. And that's why we do the show on Sundays, because we're feeling like that. So it's going to be fun, okay? If you're a fan of the Patriots, it's your glory days are done with. But we'd like to see Jared Mayo might get his first win. Yeah, that would be the upset of the week if the Patriots beat the Bengals. What about
you imagine?
Game? Do you see? I mean, just looking at the schedule, I don't see what could be an upset. AJ, you anything stick out there?
No,
Browns beating the Cowboys. Would that be an upset for you, right?
well, you you said that the Browns are apparently your favorite, so I mean, we'll see about that.
I mean,
because
just 2.5.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But
I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys win.
yeah, exactly, because we still don't know what Deshaun Watson is going to be.
I mean, I'm probably going to pick the Cowboys to win that game. I mean, if we see, I mean, this is going to be a make or break game season for Deshaun Watson. How he started this game could determine the future of his status.
Right.
Anyway. So
Exactly, because if you look at this season too, if they underwhelm or something like that, I mean, you could look at the Browns trying to get out of that because I mean, his contract is so.
yeah, they've already restructured.
Right.
That's just the beginning of getting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, well, I got Deshaun Watson as one of my fantasy football quarterbacks, and I don't think I'm going to be starting him because the Dolphins and Jaguars. I think Tua. I think I'm going to have to go with him. But AJ, I'm interested in hearing about this stellar lineup you got for this one fantasy football team.
Okay, so both are pretty solid. Well, the other one is solid too, but for my Yahoo one, like the team is really good. So of course, like the first pick, I drafted CD. I did want to draft McCaffrey, but Trent Williams still hasn't signed a contract. So I mean, obviously McCaffrey's electric, but you don't have that left tackle there.
That's
I mean,
a big position.
you know what I'm saying? Exactly. So I just go through the list. I said CD Lamb, first quarterback Joe Burrow. Then I have Mike Evans, Josh Jacobs, James Cook, Mark Andrews, Jalen Waddle. On the bench, Jake Ferguson, Caleb Williams, Austin Eckler, Jordan Addison, Brendan Aubrey, Jake Elliott as a second kicker, and then the defense, Dallas and New York.
That bench sounds pretty stellar too, huh?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Jacob?
I think that's a stacked team. Yeah, that's pretty good. Depending on however everybody else drafted, that's at least early season before injuries. Knock on wood. That's a
Right.
stacked team.
That's the big thing. Yeah.
And speaking of Josh Jacobs, you know who tried to? Someone offered me a trade. I don't want to say his name, Jacob Meadows. Someone offered me a trade this week, and it was Javonte Williams and who else
And
was it?
Rashid Rice.
And Rasheed Rice for Josh Jacobs.
You knew he wasn't going to
So
take
I'm
that, Jacob.
thinking Jacob I must have been drinking or something. I would like, okay, hit the accept trade. I'm like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah,
And I
Jacob.
said,
Offered it late, hoping that you were celebrating after closing down a show. You went and had a couple drinks, and you were just going to click that
oh,
accept
yeah,
button.
so you thought I was off the clock. I saw that. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, there's no way this came from Jacob. My co-host here is offering me a trade like this. But look, I feel bad for people who is stuck with Rasheed Rice because he will be suspended at some point in time. And it might be for more than 6 games. So that, I'm sure that's not the only wide receiver. You have Jacob.
No, it was just the only one that I wanted to give you.
But
you
you wanted to give me a guy that I know that's going to get suspended and a running back that I've had like once before does nothing for me because the Broncos they're going to go with youth. They're going to go with McLaughlin. He's the guy that runs up and down the field. You know that
Yeah.
too, Jacob.
Yeah, that's exactly why I tried to offload.
I
those
took my
guys
medicine
on
that
you. It
day,
makes
Jacob.
sense
I
to
knew
me.
you tried to catch me. I always take my medicine first thing in the morning, so I knew I had to be prepared for crazy ass trade proposals like that. But the fact that they came from Jacob, you should have saw my face.
Got
AJ.
to keep you on your toes.
I'm thinking
Like
it
I
was
texted
some
you
other
right after,
bozo in
it
our
was worth a
league
shot.
that knows nothing about football trying to make a trade with me like that.
He's trying to pull a fast one on
Oh,
you.
I almost hit that button by mistake, But I am the commissioner in that league, so I could have fixed that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. See,
That's collusion. That's
that ain't
cheating.
collusion. Yeah, y'all voted me the commissioner. I'm the commissioner, so I could have accepted the trade and then turn around and denied it. that's the power the commissioner has, man. So anyway,
That would have been so much funnier.
yeah, I know that would have been funny. So look, if you haven't did your draft by now, good Lord, what are you waiting on? I mean, there's probably a couple of leagues that will allow you to jump into the 12-team PPR, which I'm in, which there's some activity going on there. These guys are already trading. I'm not trading anyone in this sleeper league that I'm in because I have a squad. I have a squad, and those guys know I do, and they've been coming after me with trades. So look, I got Tua at quarterback. I got Jonathan Taylor and David Montgomery. I got Chase, and I got Devontae Adams. I got Evan Ingram, and I got Waddle. I got Jerome Ford. I mean, this is a team. This and Zamir White. I got Gabe Davis, Cole Kmet, and the guy from Tennessee who we can never pronounce his name, the tight end.
Okonkwo, the tight end.
Okonkwo, who. So I'm not making any trades. So anybody in that sleeper league, and I know those guys.
That's
listen
really
to
good
the
team.
show. You like that team?
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm already projected to beat the brakes off my week 1 opponent. But don't get caught up in the projections because they mean absolutely nothing. He has a pretty good team too. I'm going up against Lamar Jackson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Najee Harris, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Sam Laporta, Devin Singletary, Dallas Goedert. I mean, this is pretty good. So I mean, I could lose. This is going to be pretty stellar. But I don't know. Stephon Diggs, you think the Texans go in heavy on him in the first game? There's too many wide receivers on the Texans team. Jacob?
Say that for me again, Gene.
You
I'm
think the
sorry.
Texans go in heavy with Stephon Diggs this week? I just think this.
No, I don't think
too many
so. I
wide
think there's
receivers.
too many mouths to feed. I think we run the ball more than pass to control the clock. I think Joe Mixon's going to get a lot of work. I think Cam Akers is going to get a lot of work. You'll see a lot of underneath stuff to Dalton Schultz and Tank Dell. I think Stephon Diggs probably has 4 catches for 56 yards. I don't think he's going to keep no.
Well, I mean, that
much
would
the rest of the
satisfy
season.
me for my fantasy football, league. But what are your matchups in your fantasy football, Jacob?
What are my matchups? You want mine from your league or the one that I drafted today?
Um, well, no, who you playing up? I mean, this week, week one, your week one matchup.
Matchup. Let me pull you up.
Yeah, I mean, because now this is in your Sports Kings league, right?
I was pulling up my sports games. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, you pulling up your Sports Kings league here. AJ, have you heard any word on Brock Purdy? I mean, he's really flying under the radar this year.
In terms of what fantasy or just talking about like
Fantasy, I don't because he's just that quarterback you don't really pick. You
right,
don't. He's always available.
right.
Just seems like he's always there. I don't think he's probably maybe 50% of leagues. You know.
Yeah, I had some friends in other leagues pick him up, but yeah, sometimes he is pretty available as well. I guess like for insurance too, just in case someone has injury.
Yeah, I mean because he's just not your 300 plus. I think we all look for those 300 plus passes, like we know Tua Valova. I always mess up his name. We know him.
Tagovailoa, yeah.
Yeah. So you can just but I think he's look when you got two wide receivers, you got a Tyreek Hill and a Waddle. You know they're gonna put the ball in the air, and they
Exactly.
can have a solid ground game. That's
Exactly.
what I like about the Dolphins. They just when it comes to fantasy, I mean Tua was a beast last year, and I'm looking forward to Jacob. You got your lineup.
Yeah, I got it all pulled up. I'm playing Sharma this week. We've got Lamar Jackson, CeeDee Lamb, Tay Adams, Isaiah Pacheco, Joe Mixon, Jake Ferguson, James Cook, Harrison Butker, and the Miami defense.
Hmm.
I've got a hard week one in my sports king lineup.
All right. Well, I like it. You got to beat Denny. By the way, he's a Sports Kings member also. So anytime you can beat either Dustin or Denny, it's a good thing. You can't really
Feels
beat
good.
me.
Yeah. I've got the talent to do so if Christian McCaffrey really turns
Yeah,
it
you
on.
do.
I'm going to need a big game out of McCaffrey to pull it off, seeing as how Jerry Judy's in my lineup.
All right.
We'll see.
We will see. Well, I'll tell you another thing we're going to see, and that's the NFC North. We're going to be talking about that here at the bottom of the hour. Stick around. Nephew Tony's coming up to talk about those Chicago Bears. You're listening to the Mean Gene Show with Jacob Meadows right here on ESPN 97.5.
This is the Mean Gene Show
on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here's Mean Gene.
All right, we're getting ready to bear down here at the bottom of the second hour of the Mean Gene Show with Jacob Meadows joining us. And look, first hour we talked NFC South. Now we're gonna get into the NFC North. And look here, we're gonna do this with the family, okay? You guys, look, Steve Harvey has nephew Tommy. Well, Mean Gene has nephew Tony. And I am more than happy to bring on my nephew, who is just the biggest Chicago Bears fan that I've ever known. He's also a professional barber, has his own barbershop there in Chicago, which we have broadcast a show from there many years ago, which was fun. So his barbers are the best in the world. But my nephew here, his sports knowledge, it's up there. It's up there, Jacob, with yours and Dustin. It hasn't caught up with mine yet, but he's getting there.
Of course not.
So anyway, I'm more than happy to bring on nephew Tony. Tony, you with me?
Uncle Gene, how you doing, man? Uncle Gene, Sports Kings.
Hey,
What's going on, baby?
doing great, man. We look here. Before I even, you're on with Jacob Meadows, and look, we're getting ready to talk NFC North here. Now, I don't need to tell you this, but I have to tell my listeners this, okay? We know the last time the Bears won that division was in 2018. Now, what's unique about that was the year after they fired John Fox, right? And then you're bringing a guy by the name of Matt Nagy, who goes 12-4, lose to the Eagles in the division rounds, but everybody thought Matt Nagy was the man.
They should have won that game, though, Uncle Gene. They lost that game on that missed field goal.
I remember that. I do remember that. But I'm just looking at back then and look where we are now. I mean, it's just been crazy. Now, Eberflus is the coach. They ran Matt Nagy out of town, but man, his career looked so promising at that time, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It did. It looked like the right decision at the time. But the quarterback situation has always been a problem in Chicago.
And boy, that's why we got you on now, because look, me and you have talked off the air, and you know the things we say off the air, they ain't really made for radio. Hell, they ain't even made for TV, some of the things we talk about, because we done had some deep arguments. You know, I can argue with my nephew, AJ. AJ's my producer here. And he has a son by the name of AJ, too, by the way.
Great name.
So look, let's talk about this. Yeah, because it's the quarterback situation that probably got all those coaches fired, right? You remember when I was in Chicago covering the Bears when Mark Trestman was there, and I think that was back in the Jay Cutler days, if I'm not mistaken. But this quarterback you have now, Caleb Williams. Look, the whole world gets to watch the Bears this year with Hard Knocks and stuff we saw. I mean, it's really, you have convinced me in what I've seen in those preseason games. I know they don't matter, but they mattered for him. Where do you think Caleb Williams is going to take the Bears this year?
Man, I say my floor would be missing the playoffs, and my ceiling would be in the Super Bowl. I tell you, I love that you can watch Caleb Williams and see that he's special. He's special. He is not Justin Fields. You're going to get some wins with them. They won 7 games with Justin Fields. I'm looking at the Bears to give me 11 to 12 wins. And I'm going to tell you, last year we had Detroit beat twice. We had them down 14 points with 4 minutes and some change to go, and they gave up that game. We beat them the second time. Green Bay has beat us both times last year, but after we got Montez Sweat, that last game was a close game. Caleb Williams can be a difference maker. He can be a difference maker, I believe. And I think with the weapons they put around him, no quarterback as a first-round number 1 pick ever came into a situation like this. Caleb Williams coming into something that is going to be special for the next 10 years. They got DJ Moore on that great contract. You can re-sign Keenan Allen, but if you don't, you still got room on Doomsday. The big pickup, I think, for me was Darrell Taylor from Seattle, because everybody's talking about Caleb Williams and the offense, but I tell you this, the Bears, if they don't get another pass rusher on the opposite side of Montez Sweat, if Montez Sweat go down, the Bears season could be over. If Montez go down for any serious amount of time, the Bears season can be over, because with no pass rush, their defense is suspect.
You know what, Jacob, listening to Tony here, I mean, he makes a good case that that Caleb Williams comes into a cushy situation. How do you compare it to the one that C.J. Stroud came into?
I mean, it's a little different just because the situation Caleb Williams is stepping into is so much better, right? C.J. Stroud was the worst team in the league, or second worst team in the league. We didn't have we built the talent around C.J. Caleb Williams is stepping into an all-star, all-pro cast. Like you said, you have Keenan Allen, you have DJ Moore. DeAndre Carter's a good, serviceable, rotational wide receiver. They bring in DeAndre Swift. So it's different than what C.J. Stroud had. I think Caleb Williams could easily have a better rookie season on paper than Stroud was ever projected to, just because of the sheer amount of talent around him.
Okay. Nephew, we got 2 minutes. Give me your NFC North division breakdown in your order: 1, 2, 3, 4.
I like
1, 2, 3.
I like all the teams in there, and I'm sad that J.J. McCarthy got hurt, because I think J.J. McCarthy would have came out there and got some time this year. That would have been beneficial to him. But I'm gonna put Minnesota at number 4. I'm gonna go number 3. It's going to be tough, man. Those 3 teams are good. I'm going to go number 3, the Packers. And they might have 10 or 11 wins. I'm going to go number 2, Detroit. But I think the Bears have the best defense if they stay healthy, and they got the best offense. Special teams are outstanding, and that kicker they took in the 5th round is going to be a weapon all this year. When the Bears go 3 and out, he's going to put you inside the 20. I'm taking the Bears to win that division with 12 games, man. I know people don't want to hear it, don't want to believe it, but the Bears got something special. And if they stay healthy, they're going to be great.
You know, we're going to talk about week 2 of the season. Now, you know, we get to see what's probably going to be some must-see TV. I can't wait to see how the media is going to hype this up, because you know they are. You get C.J. Stroud and Caleb Williams. The Bears come to town, and I know the Bears roll deep. They will try to come to town here with all that orange and blue. And I'm gonna tell you right now, nephew, I love you.
They travel well.
We're gonna stop your ass at the airport. We gonna let y'all come in here
too many of them
and
coming,
take
Uncle
over
Jay.
H-Town. It ain't happening.
It's gonna be a different place whenever they come to H-Town, man.
It's gonna be different when they go anywhere.
I know. Look, Bears fans do roll deep. They do, and I cannot wait. We're looking ahead. I know both teams got to get past week 1 here.
Exactly.
But hey, nephew, I knew you was going to come on here and represent well. You always do.
I have to, man.
All right. Well, look here. Say hi to the wife and kids, and your mom. I need to call her, but we'll talk about that off there. You know, we got family business, right?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, love you, nephew. We'll catch up with you.
Man, always a pleasure to be on the Mean Gene Sports King show, man. I appreciate you reaching out. You can reach me at Cut It Out Barbershop, 7140 West Grand Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. And, man, bear down, baby. Caleb here. We coming.
All right. Woo.
Bear down.
All right. Y'all heard it. Hey, look here. Bear down. You know what? We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to just break down everything that nephew Tony said, Jacob, because he got some interesting stuff, especially if his third place team in that division is winning 10 or 11 games, then that could make for an interesting NFC North. We'll break it down here. In our last segment here, folks, you're listening to the Mean Gene Show with Jacob Meadows right here on ESPN 97.5.
This is the Mean Gene Show
On ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here's Mean Gene.
Woo, man. I tell you, boy, this time flies when you have fun. Even though, Jacob, you were not here the whole time, I felt your presence here. I had a lot of room to maneuver because, when you come in here, you bring a whole bunch of stuff. So I actually had this whole desk, to spread out here, Jacob. You telling me it's going to be like that next week, too? Is Jacob still with us?
Yes, sir. I am still with you. I'm a little hard of hearing. I don't. This whole call-in thing's a little tough on this. I'm using my work phone. It is the quality is not what it could be. I'm gonna have AJ call my other phone.
Well, I
I
was saying nothing but good things about you, so you didn't really miss nothing. Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Here's the deal. What do you think about nephew Tony?
I like his takes. I think he's real high on the Bears. Year one of Caleb Williams, but I like him. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, yes, he is real high on the Bears. And Bears fans are like that, though.
They are. They always
but-
have been. Yeah,
but
despite not
he's
having a
making
quarterback
the
since
case,
Grossman.
though, that this quarterback is different. I mean, look, we try not to look ahead for week 2 because the comparisons, people are going to make the comparisons. I can't believe I'm trying not to make the comparisons. I'm just saying there's going to be some good TV to watch, Texans versus Bears. The Bears will come to town deep. I saw that in Vegas a couple of years ago when I thought I was in Chicago. I've never seen so many Bears fans, and they beat the Raiders in that game. Not only did they come to town, they came to town and showed out and beat a Raiders team that didn't see that coming. This Texans team is going to be a little, too tough for that. But, Jacob, your thoughts on just the NFC North structure there? Look, it's hard to just overlook what the Packers did and the Lions. We talked about it early on, Jacob. There's every year a team that made the playoffs. Sometimes a team that go deep into the playoffs don't make it the next year. The Lions could be that team.
There's always a team that does that. I don't think the Lions are the team that does that. I think the Packers would be out of this division. But yeah, I think this division does have a team that saw the playoffs last year that will not see the playoffs again this year, whether it be Detroit or whether it be Green Bay. I think one of those two missed completely. Yeah. I'm 50% in agreement with you on that.
Now, if Anthony's right or nephew Tony's right, then I'm actually. I mean, it could be something to watch if he's got the third place team with 11 wins, or then you could get 3 teams in the playoffs. And I could see that if the Bears turn out to have a good season and the Lions and Packers just continue from what they did, it could be interesting. I still think the Vikings. I think everybody agrees that the Vikings are last place. You too, AJ?
Yeah, I think so too, especially with JJ getting hurt. Because I think really it would have been good for him and Justin Jefferson, and even Jordan Addison to form a rapport in year 1. So I think maybe next year they'll do better. You can't do worse than what Sam Darnold potentially could do. I mean, Sam Darnold could
be wrong.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But it's always up and down with him too.
I mean, you talking about giving chances, man.
Right.
I interviewed him when he got drafted there in Dallas when they hosted the NFL draft when he got drafted by, was it the Jets?
Yeah, it was the Jets.
So it was didn't think that he would go from what he went to the Panthers, I think. Then he went to 49ers.
Right.
And he's on his 4th team, and that draft was only 6-7 years ago.
2018.
So I don't know, Jacob. Who's your top order of finish there in the NFC North?
My order, I have a feeling that mine's going to be pretty similar to yours. I've got the Vikings in last place. I definitely think they round out the cellar. Not even just because of the injury to McCarthy, but just overall. But 2 and 3 is tough. I've got right now. I would have to put the Bears at 3, Packers at 2, and the Lions at 1. But it very, very easily could be Lions 1, Bears 2, Packers 3.
Yeah.
I do have a feeling the Packers miss the playoffs altogether. And if the Bears click, I mean, they click, right? They have all the talent. One of the things that, nephew Tony said was that his floor was 9 wins, ceiling was the Super Bowl. My ceiling for the Bears is the Super Bowl. The floor is much lower, but the ceiling is a Super Bowl because of all the talent. So just for sake of argument, it'd be Vikings at 4, Packers at 3, Bears at 2, Lions at 1, I think is going to be my pick.
Well, here's the crazy thing here, and I think things will be determined quite early. I know there's 17 games in the season. We all know the back end is not so much important sometimes. I mean, it is and it isn't. Look, the Vikings should beat the Giants on Sunday, okay? So that would give the Vikings a win. I think the Titans are going to beat the Bears, and I know that game is in Chicago. Bears are a 4-point favorite, but I think hey, if the Bears beat them, then boy, the rhetoric is only going to get more intense. But if they lose to the Titans and then they come to Houston and lose to the Texans, then you're talking about an 0-2 Bears. I mean, I'm just saying here. But Jacob, your pick is exactly what I have. I have the Vikings finishing last. I have the Bears in third place. I have the Packers in second, and I got the Lions. And I think that's pretty much the way it ended last year. I think maybe the Bears were worse, I think, than the Packers um, in that division last year. But that's the way I have it, and I think I would like to see the Lions repeat. It's just something. The way that Super Bowl, the way the NFC Championship game was coached. I don't know if Dan Campbell doesn't change his coaching style. I don't know, man. I mean, there was opportunities for that team. Their window is shorter than any team that I've ever seen. Even the Buffalo Bills have been able to string along some great seasons, but I don't see that. We're talking Jared Goff. I don't see. I could see the Lions going from first to worst easily. I really can.
I like the Lions this year. I see a lot of people have an issue with the way Dan Campbell does because he's so aggressive, right? He goes for it on fourth down. He runs fake punts and whatnot. But those things can only fail so many times. They barely came up short last year, and I don't think that he changes the way that he does things.
Probably
And
doesn't.
I think that they might lean his way this year. They have so much talent. If Laporta comes back on as strong as he was, Lamont St. Brown looks as good as he did last year, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery both look as good as they did. Their offensive line is healthy. Like their defense is phenomenal. They have some questions at quarterback with C.J. Gardner-Johnson leaving and Emmanuel Mosley going back down on season-ending IR. But Detroit they have everything in place. They're loaded to make a run. And I don't know. I like Detroit this season. I think they build on last year's stellar season, and I think Dan Campbell might finally make it. He might make it to the big game this year.
Man, okay. Well, we shall see. All right. So we've covered every division in football, and now with just a couple of minutes left to go in the show, because when we come back here next Sunday, man, it's all in. We got scores, highlights, updates, you name it, real time action happening, and all of the games will be over with by the time we get on the air, except for the Sunday night game, which we'll give you updates on that starting next week. But man, it's going to be fast paced. Look, according to NFL news, and the Super Bowl is going to be in New Orleans in 2025. The Chiefs are heavily favored. Some folks are picking Chiefs over Packers. There's some folks are picking Chiefs over Lions. Some folks are picking Chiefs over the Eagles. Some people are saying Chiefs and the 49ers again. So then we have, I don't see any Cowboys. I'm sorry, AJ. I'm looking here.
That's fine.
I see.
I don't see the Steelers either.
I don't see. I don't see any Pittsburgh Steelers either. That's a good one. So, Packers over Jets. Yeah, whoever that's a fat chance. That's not going to happen. But look here. I'm gonna give you what I got. AFC Championship game. Are you ready for this? I got the Texans and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Okay.
I like that.
NFC Championship game, I have Eagles and 49ers. So if I had to go with a Super Bowl from there, it's looking more like Chiefs and Eagles or 49ers. I can't, and that's not, because these teams are the cream of the crop. And in the NFC, things could change. Atlanta could make a case for having a good run, but it's going to be interesting to see, Jacob. This is why they play the game for a Super Bowl. I guess I would just go ahead and say Chiefs, Eagles to make it official, but who knows? The Eagles scare me a little bit,
I feel that we almost have the same picks for the championship games. That's, it's hard to pick against them, right? I have Texans v. Chiefs in the AFC Championship as well. The NFC Championship, I have Eagles versus the Lions. But that's just because I don't believe in the Kyle Shanahan experiment this year. I think the between Brandon Ayuk being a distraction with his contract and them having to feed the three-headed monster a little differently, and then all the other small things going around the San Francisco organization, I don't think they end up making the Super Bowl. But Eagles, Lions, Chiefs, Texans. So it's going to be a great season.
It's gonna be a great one. And look, folks, next week, make sure you join us. Okay, we're gonna have all of your highlights and analysis and everything from week one. It's been a great show, AJ. Thank you for everything you do. And we want to thank Dustin Pfeiffer and nephew Tony for coming on representing. And Jacob, hey, we'll be back here next week, folks. Don't forget Thursday night, Ravens and Chiefs. You have been listening to the Mean Gene Show right here on ESPN 97.5 H-Town.